All WandaVision episodes are now released, and I'm personally a bit obsessed with ranking, so why not rank all episodes of the season? Hi fellow Disney Plus watchers, this is Thoughts After the Disney Plus Watch, where we review everything new Disney Plus coming out, and I'm glad you are watching. I'm going to talk freely about all kinds of spoilers here, so if you haven't watched all episodes of WandaVision, it's a really good idea to drop this in your watch later list. If you stuck around, that's great, let's go for it. Let's start with my number 9, episode 2, Don't Touch That Dial. WandaVision is a remarkable show and I enjoyed every second of it. The reason that this episode is lowest on my list is because it wasn't particularly fresh or very interesting after the first episode, which had a very similar style. I know that the first one is representing the 50s and this one the 60s, that's fair, but it didn't feel that far removed from the style of the first. And the story about this magic show for the children, Vision hanging out with the town committee, it was all kind of fun but it didn't grab me. I thought the little story of the first one was way more effective, simpler but funnier and more unsettling at the same time. But in terms of building mystery, this one did give us a little peek behind the curtain with the beekeeper, for instance. Coming in at number 8, episode 4, We Interrupt This Program. The prequel origin story of the sword side of the story, and ultimately the least WandaVision episode of them all. I mean, whatever your opinion may be, that's true, right? It's the least WandaVision episode. No Wanda or Vision in the lead or any sitcom storyline. Now that's fine, we kinda needed some catching up somewhere in the story, and Monica, Jimmy and Darcy are really great fun characters. Really cool to see the mission around sending the beekeeper guy into the hex. Nothing wrong with it, but I couldn't help but be a tiny bit disappointed when I first saw it. That cloud of mystery surrounding this show was suddenly gone. Like, we had a lot of questions to go, I know, but it kind of felt to me like that. Number 7 would be episode 6, All New Halloween Spooktacular. This episode had that big Agnes misdirect. She just sitting in her car all confused and hypnotized. I mean, great scene. Also, Vision's brave act of really feeling the responsibility of finding out what the heck is going on, risking his life to seek help. The visual tone of this episode was good. The town completely freeze-framed the Halloween festival and all that. The episode also got you guessing about what Quicksilver's role is in all of this, because he sure asked some curious questions and said some questionable things. This episode is still not one of my favorites, because I couldn't really get into this style of sitcom. I think it was because of the quips and one-liners that just really didn't land for me. Not really my kind of dish. Going to my number 6, episode 8, Previously On. This one is absolutely essential for everyone that got into WandaVision without having seen everything else in the MCU. It's really for them. It doesn't further the plot, but it does explain and make you empathize with Wanda's pain. It's also one of the least WandaVision episodes, again, just like episode 4, and is a lot of setup. That makes it not one to absolutely hype over, but it did make me feel a lot of stuff and even succeeded in making my eyes a bit wet near the end. My number 5 would be episode 1, filmed before a live studio audience. I probably placed this episode a lot higher than most would, because I know it's just 95% sitcom with a subtle aftertaste of, wait, is this leading to something dark maybe? But the fact that this show was still so entirely drenched in mystery is the reason for me I still love it so much. I want to go back, I want to go back to the feeling of, oh my, I just watched a really uncomfortable old sitcom and there's something a little bit off, but I don't know what it is. The past couple of weeks I began to think about how I would rank some of these episodes, and every week this episode just kept going higher and higher up my list because I realized how this episode was the one that felt the most like a boxed, quarantined reality. Am I making sense? I just love the mysterious phase of this show. The first 3 episodes, with episode 2 not having a great story in and of itself. That brings me to my number 4, episode 3, Now in Color. Now this one just combines that boxed in, almost prison-like feel of the world with the best humor, with the most nice looking color palette of them all, with some real answers about Wanda controlling a lot of this reality. It just has it all, And I must say this is still the one where I laughed the most. The doctor, Wanda trying to distract Monica before she finds out about her magic and stuff, a rainstorm in the house after one of Wanda's contractions. It's full of great moments and ends on a chilling note when Monica mentions Ultron and Pietro. Before we move on to the top 3, if you're interested in more in-depth thoughts on previous episodes, you can find them listed on the right in the description or on my channel page. And before we move on, did you know I'm currently the only review channel on YouTube that is specifically Disney Plus? You'll always know what to expect. Click that button and that bell if you want to follow along. Thank you so much. We're moving into the top 3 with episode 7, Breaking the Fourth Wall. I was constantly switching my number 2 and number 3. I believe I said this was my favorite episode when it came out, in my review, but you know how it goes. When a show is just this good and the show as a whole just makes so much sense when you look at all the chapters and all that happens, I do have to say that this is my favorite time period. Paul Bettany is really hilarious in this type of fourth wall breaking comedy. I didn't expect him to be this brilliant in this format. Wanda's madness is portrayed in Burnout, a Burnout plotline. Vision and Darcy can't get back to Westview because of Wanda's made-up roadblocks. All clever stuff going on. There's so much to love here. Even the Agatha All Along song, it's catchy and memorable. I could go on and on about this one. But I want to talk about my number 2, episode 5, on a very special episode. Maybe the Stop Lying to Me was the biggest spine chill I experienced during this whole show. I think it really is. This was the moment Vision decided to stop hiding his suspicion, and from this moment on, he had become an enemy of Wanda, sort of. Not really, because he cooled down later. But this episode was just so tense, and it was all because Vision really found out he was trapped in this horrible fantasy. The confrontation between Wanda and Sword, where Wanda leaves the hex, the ending scene where Pietro seems suddenly recast, really memorable stuff all around. And you know what? I'm going to say it. This might be the most memorable episode of the whole show. And Who's the Popsicle was the perfect joke to end the episode after so much drama and tension. But everyone, including me, loves finales, and I especially love finales when they deliver, so episode 9, the series finale, is my number 1. I'm not going all in depth here. If you'd like to hear me talk about that devastating ending, the very interesting metaphor Vision and White Vision we're talking about, the townspeople turning on Wanda, Agatha trying to bribe her way into getting Wanda's powers, all that amazing payoff going on, there's jumping something into the right of your screen, so you can check that out if you want. I loved the finale. It was such a ride. I'm thinking about wrapping this up. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you think I should do more of these when other Disney Plus shows wrap up their season, like these kinds of rankings. If you think that's fun, that's great. Place your ranking down in the comments. That would be cool, so we can talk about it. We're doing Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, and all other Marvel stuff, of course. Oh, and all sorts of Disney Plus originals, really. For now, have a wonderful day, and see ya!